Hey everyone! Welcome back. I am back today with more RWBY Fairy Tales, you guys. I am so excited to see more of the show. It has honestly been even better than I expected and has really given even more insights into like actual events of the main show than I would have guessed. And I'll get into that in a second because there are some things I want to talk about regarding the last episode. But before I get started on that, I want to say, if you're joining me early today, you know just what that means. It means that you are one of my awesome patrons. Thank you so much. And as always, I'm sending up those big old hugs right through that screen. And if not, still thank you for joining me today. I'm glad you're here. I do hope you'll consider supporting me that way. The link to my Patreon is going to be in the description down below. And if you are joining me on that YouTubes today, I hope you will hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, hit all the good buttons. Thank you so much. So, all right, guys, I'm just going to address the biggest thing that I cannot believe I did not get in the last episode. Many of you brought it to my attention afterwards, that it was pretty obvious that the crown that we were dealing with in the last episode was supposed to be the relic of choice. And I don't know why that completely just eluded me. But I am on board with it now. So again, like kind of an interesting way to show some insight into something that could come back, you know, later on in like the main RWBY proper series. Of course, we don't know, you know, these fairy tales are all kind of they're not necessarily like detailed historical accounts, you know. They're kind of stories that may have been shifted for, you know, fictional value or whatever, or just gotten distorted over retellings, who knows. But like, they're not, I feel like they're not so, historically like detailed and everything that is necessarily going to be exactly how we're going to see it when we do see it. Like there's still, I feel like, enough room for kind of like mystery in there. Does that make any sense? I hope that makes sense. But I mean, it certainly gives us some clue as to like what we might be dealing with. You know, I think there have been a lot of theories thrown around about like what specifically it could look like or what it could mean. I guess we'll just have to find out when we keep watching the show. Of course, if I usually try really, really, really hard not to say anything about anything that came like after a certain volume. I'm sorry I didn't put my warning on before. I'm kind of under the impression that like most of you are caught up with RWBY. If you are not, forget everything I said. Don't remember the word relic. Don't worry about it. Just keep watching RWBY. But yeah, speaking of which, guys, I almost fell out of my chair when I saw the name of the next episode, because the name of the next episode is The Girl in the Tower. So guys, I'm addressing the folks who have not caught up on RWBY. Like, please go do that and then come back, because it's going to be really impossible for me to talk about this without incorporating some stuff that we find out in later volumes. So just be warned of that. If you have not seen all of RWBY or like past volume, God, what volume was it? 6? Is it volume 6? I don't even know. But I know it happens like later, like past the first couple. Please go do that and come back here, because you're going to get like the crap spoiled out of you. Just even by seeing this, I think, like, well, no, because I'm sure they're not going to make any references. But anywho, that's my little obligatory warning to you guys that like this one is going to be really impossible for me to talk about without talking about the show as a whole, including later volumes and stuff we find out. But guys, I only know one story about a girl in a tower, and it is not a happy story. So I'm very curious to see, you know, we've already kind of seen the story told now, in a more realistic way, but kind of like in flashback style. So what will be, so again, this is going to give us some interesting insights, because we've seen this told with an actual accurate historical account. Now we have like a baseline, you know what I mean? And we could see what they're going to do with this story that differs, or I'm sure there's going to be stuff left out, obviously, from like the actual story. I think it will give us a good, I think that will give us a good idea of like maybe how much these fairy tales are differing from the true story, you know, assuming that many of these did actually happen. Like this one definitely happened. You know, I think the Relic of Choice one probably happened. The Huntsman's Children, I would like to think that it really happened. I think that would be an interesting way to explain how the teams of 4 kind of came into being. But anyway, I just think that's going to be very fascinating. I personally cannot wait to get into it. What do you say we go ahead and jump in and get started on this next episode of RWBY Fairy Tales? Let's do this.
Today's show is brought to you by ExpressVPN. Working from home?
Has anyone checked out
sensitive data with an
ExpressVPN?
extra layer of security at
I've heard good things.
expressvpn.com/rooster.
All right, and this is only 5 minutes. So this is going to be like quick.
A long, long time ago, a
And
beautiful girl was
I know, I
locked in a
won't say it.
tower by her cruel father. He was not always that way.
Huh?
But when her mother died in childbirth, it devastated him.
Really? Oh, that's kind of... So maybe this will have more
He
detail.
would never lose his daughter. So he locked her away.
Oh no.
Father,
This is the origin
Why
story.
won't you let me leave this tower?
My darling,
That's her as a kid.
you are my most precious possession.
Oh
Protecting you from everything outside that could harm you.
no, but now you're doing that a lot for. That's not.
But I'll
That's
be
not good for
careful.
her.
I
That's-
promise.
This was your mother's favorite tower. She loved gazing out this very window. Why would you want to live it?
I just wish I knew what life was like outside this room.
Oh, good lord. So she's gonna read books
Since
to
you
learn
cannot
about.
go out into the world,
Aww.
perhaps these will bring the world to you.
It's gonna. Oh, the places you can go with books. This is really sad, guys. This is. I gotta say, the whole like imprisoned girl thing. I'm not a big fan of the
Books.
story.
What a marvelous place. Tomorrow I'll be 16 and I have never even stepped outside.
Huh. Oh, there's some stuff. Looks like treasure in there.
Thank you, dearest father, for these wonderful
Oh,
gifts.
those are her gifts for her
Anything
birthday.
for my daughter on her 16th birthday?
Oh boy.
There is one thing I still desire.
What is that, my darling?
Pen and paper, that is all. I have read every book in this castle, and now there are none left. I would
She's
like
gonna write
to
one.
write my own stories.
It shall be yours.
Did she make all the fairy
I hope you will
tales?
read these stories to me.
Of course, father.
Did she make all the fairy tales? That'd be crazy.
Once there lived a beautiful maiden locked in a high tower by her
Dear
cruel
Lord.
father.
Dear Lord.
She longed to experience the world outside, but she was his prisoner. If only
Oh.
some brave, strong warrior would defeat the
Uh-huh.
evil lord
Here
and
we go.
free her at last, they would marry, inherit all of her father's riches, and live happily ever after.
Oh wow.
Just
So
as
she's
she
like,
planned. The story of the girl's tragic circumstances spread far and wide.
did she organize her own? Oh my god,
And
wait,
then the
no.
Lord's
Did she?
worst nightmare came true.
She actually brought them to. Oh, that's kind of intense, guys. I mean, I feel bad for her, but dang.
Another arrived to challenge his might.
I mean, it was messed up what he was doing, but.
Many tried,
Whoa.
and just as many fell to the Lord's powerful evil
It's
magic,
not going as she planned.
until one day a brave new challenger came.
There's Oz.
This hero, armed with his own powerful magic, at last defeated the cruel Lord.
I mean, it was. Dang. So she orchestrated the whole thing. I don't know if I ever realized that. And then they got out
You have
together.
rescued me from this castle, the girl said.
She was
So now it
always...
is yours. I only came to right a terrible wrong, the hero said. You rescued yourself.
Well, that
Where
is
should we
kind of
go
true.
Wherever you like. You are the one who has yet to see the world.
Oh, dear Lord. See the
And
world.
here we are at the
Destroy
end.
the world.
This fairy tale is unique on Remnant. In that the protagonist writes her own story. And her own ending. Storytellers hold great power over their audiences. The girl in the tower used her power and led many warriors to their deaths.
Are we seeing us?
We must read with some skepticism and decide the truth for ourselves.
Yeah, for real,
Because in real
guys.
life, there is no happily ever after.
Not
Looking
like
to pick
that.
up some
There is
merch
a
for the holidays?
holy crap.
Well, we just released new RWBY and Red vs. Blue merch on the Rooster Teeth store. And everything on the site is 30% off through November 29th. So, click the
That's
link
today.
to
I
start
need to go
shopping
check out their site. Holy cow, you guys. I'm not even sure where to begin because they blew my mind so many ways with that. So first of all, I kind of thought it was just going to be like a straight retelling of what we knew. Like, there was a girl in the tower, she was trapped there, the father kept her there, Oz comes and gets her out. I don't think I ever really realized, and maybe this is just something that went over my head, or are they clarifying this here, that, like, she kind of I just thought there was war coming to that kingdom for whatever reason, because, you know, pick a reason. And he happened to be the one to save her and get her out in the midst of that war. I never really realized that she, like, when you say kind of like creating your own narrative, that's usually kind of like a metaphor, I think, for, no, this is literal. She literally wrote her own story and used it to bring soldiers to that tower, to the palace, to get her out. And I mean, to also like take down the dad, which I gotta say, guys, and I felt the same way about Weiss when we did the whole, again, I'm gonna get into stuff from the series, so like, please go watch. When they did the whole like Weiss gets imprisoned by the dad thing, when I said I wasn't a fan of the story, I didn't mean I'm not a fan of the way it's told or anything, but I'm just so like, nothing gets my blood boiling like a let's imprison or trap somebody kind of thing, especially when it's like a parental thing, because it's just so like, oh, you're supposed to be like teaching them and like helping them, like this isn't helping them, this is helping you. Don't get me started. I will get started. Just don't get me started. But I mean, also, like, she straight up manipulated for that. Like, her intention all along was to, like, get that dad taken down. Like, he was not going to live in the story that she wrote. It does show, even prior to everything set in motion by these events, it does show, like, some degree of, like, malicious intent. And kind of this, I mean, and in a way, you know, you keep your kid imprisoned, even if it's like for their own good, you're basically imprisoning them for 16 years. And like, how can you not expect a little bit of like not so good stuff to emerge, mentally speaking? I get it. I'm not saying it's right, but I get it. I get that, like, by that point, she probably only saw one way out of that, and that was for the king, the dad, to perish. But dang, like, that does kind of put a different spin on it for me, because the way I saw that story up to this point was she is lonely and trapped. He comes and saves her from just fighting and chaos, and he comes and saves her. Like, I don't think I ever, if they describe this, I don't think I ever really realized that, like, the chaos was specifically about coming to save her, or that there was any kind of, like, there are these kind of, I hate to say beacons, but there are these messages going out of like, come save this person. I think either I didn't catch that or I had just kind of, I lost it over time. But I mean, that kind of puts it in different perspective too, that like up to this point, I kind of thought like he came and saved her. They were in love. They were happy. Something happens to him and all of a sudden we start to see like, I'm like, oh, it was triggered by this, okay, very traumatic event. And like, I always kind of felt a degree of sympathy. And I still kind of do, because the whole thing is not cut and dry by any stretch of the imagination. Because, like, what is somebody really supposed to, like, what kind of character do you build after being literally imprisoned for 16 years? It's probably nothing good, you know, or, I mean, maybe something good, but not, you know, great. So, where was I going with this? Where I was going with this is, I kind of thought, like, his death was what triggered her to kind of like, I'm going to do whatever it takes. Like, even if I have to kind of tell some like little white lies to these gods, I'm going to get him back. And I'm like, any one of us lost a loved one and we were in the heat of that grief. You know what I mean? Like, but now I can kind of see that the manipulation started far before that. Just kind of it's very interesting. I think it has put an interesting spin on that particular origin story for me. And I love that we get to see Ozpin at the end, like actual like Ozpin, because we have not seen him in a very long time. We have not like seen him in a very long time. So that was really, really cool. I was happy about that. And I think that's interesting that like, yeah, you have to be kind of careful sometimes of reading between the lines of like the story that you're telling, depending on who's telling it. You know, there's two sides, I guess, to every story. So that was kind of an interesting little, I think it was interesting to me that the moral of the story ended up being kind of a high level, you know, not so much what happened in the story, but like consider your source material when you're enjoying a story, or when you're maybe not even enjoying a story, but like, you know, how many things in history are shaped and sort of put into a certain perspective based on who's writing the history books, you know what I mean? And it's very interesting to me that she wrote her own story. I did think for a second that maybe she had written all the fairy tales, but probably just that one, because some of them, the timing, I don't think would work out. But, or maybe it would. Maybe it would. I don't know. But I don't know if that's what they're getting at. I think she just wrote that one story. But guys, that was excellent. That may have been my favorite one yet, just because of how close it hits to home of like the actual proper show. So I loved that. You've heard enough of me ranting about it. I will wrap it up, but dang, you guys, that was very, very, very good. I really enjoyed that a lot. I think we only have a few episodes left now. So, you know, I will be posting, check the schedule for like what I'm doing next and other content I'm doing. And I'm sure I'll be having a chat at some point about like what to do next. So no worries there. But guys, I loved this one. I really think it was my favorite. I hope you enjoyed watching along with me. As always, thank you so much for joining me today. Please be sure to join me next time. We will watch it together. Bye for now, guys.